Dangerous is the eighth studio album by American recording artist Michael Jackson. It was released on November 26, 1991 by Epic Records. His first album under his new contract with Sony Music, it was also Jackson's first album since 1975's Forever, Michael not to be produced by longtime collaborator Quincy Jones, who had agreed to split after the final recording sessions for Jackson's 1987 album, Bad. Dangerous has sold over 30 million albums worldwide, 7 million albums were shipped in the United States alone, and has been cited as one of the best-selling albums of all time. The album produced 4 top 10 singles on the Billboard Hot 100 including one number 1. Similar to the musician's previous material, the album's music features elements of R&B, pop and rock while also incorporating a newer genre, New Jack Swing, after the inclusion of producer Teddy Riley to the project in a bid to present Jackson to a younger urban audience. Dangerous took over a year in production. Lyrical themes expressed in the album included racism, poverty, paranoia, romance, the welfare of children and the world and self-improvement, topics Jackson had covered before. 9 singles were released from Dangerous between November 1991 and December 1993, with 7 singles issued in the United States, and 2 others released only outside the U.S. The 2 singles released outside the United States were successful, charting within the top 10 and top 40 respectively. Dangerous peaked at number 1 in 9 countries, while charting at the top 10 in 4 other territories. The only songs not released were, Why You Wanna Trip on Me, She Drives Me Wild, Can't Let Her Get Away, Keep the Faith, and Dangerous. A video and a single release for the latter song was said to have been planned but was postponed indefinitely due to the musician's tour and later personal problems. Dangerous was the first album to be produced fully by Jackson, with additional production from his friend, Bill Bottrell, and Teddy Riley. Jackson earned writing credits on all but 2 tracks on the album. Dangerous received several Grammy nominations, winning only for Best Engineered Album by Bruce Swedien and Riley. In addition to commercial success, the album received critical acclaim from contemporary critics. It has been listed as the most successful album of all time in the New Jack Swing style. Background: following the end of his successful but grueling world tour to support his successful Bad album in January 1989, Jackson had decided to focus on outside works including a deal with LA Gear to promote their brand of sneakers. He had also planned on the release of 2 greatest hits packages, Decade 1979 to 1989 and Decade 1980 to 1990. Each was supposed to compose of hits spanning from his 3 previous studio albums, Off the Wall, Thriller and Bad, as well as unheard demos and new songs. In 1988, CBS Records was acquired by Sony Music. As a result, all of the artists who recorded for the CBS subsidiaries including Epic and Columbia would now see their records distributed by Sony Music. In March 1991, days after his sister Janet Jackson had signed a $32 million deal with Virgin Records, the musician topped her by signing with Sony Music for a reported $50 million, making it the most lucrative contract in music history. Jackson's stipulations for the contract was that he must release at least 3 studio albums, a remix album, 2 greatest hits collections and a box set. Recording sessions for Dangerous took place at Ocean Way Record One's Studio 2 in Los Angeles, starting on June 25, 1990, and ended at both Larrabee North and Ocean Way Studios on October 29, 1991, making it, at 16 months, the most extensive recording of Jackson's career at the time, where before he usually took 6 months. After Jackson and Bottrell began work on some songs including an early version of Dangerous, he decided to recruit Teddy Riley to overlook some of the album's production. For the first time since 1979, Jackson was without longtime producer Quincy Jones, who had produced Off the Wall, Thriller and Bad. According to Jones, he convinced Jackson to have Riley replace him in the production of Dangerous. Some album sessions were put on hold due to Jackson's health problems as he had spent time in an LA hospital for weeks after complaining of chest pains. When he was released, he continued work on the album, desiring to take his music to a harder sound than in previous albums, inspired by his sister Janet's edgy sound in her album, Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814. Prior to working with Riley, Jackson had desired to work with producers Kenneth "Babyface" Edmonds and Antonio L.A. Reid. Around the same time, his brother Jermaine Jackson, who had signed with LaFace Records, was set to work with them, and since Jackson didn't tell his brother about it before, considered it as an act of betrayal, though he later dismissed the notion in years since. Jermaine's song, Word to the Bad, was composed with lyrics aimed negatively at his brother, and would later revise to lyrics aimed at a bad relationship. Songs that were recorded for the Dangerous album but were eventually left out included Monkey Business, She Got It, Work That Body, Serious Effect, If You Don't Love Me, The Ballad for All Time. Earth Song was initially recorded for the album but was later included on History, Past, Present and Future, Book I, Superfly Sister, and Blood on the Dance Floor, the latter two later issued on Jackson's remix compilation, Blood on the Dance Floor, History in the Mix. Composition: with Riley, Jackson recorded under the New Jack Swing genre, a genre Riley has been often credited with inventing. It was also the first album in which Jackson began rapping. The inclusion of the rap group WRECKX-N-Effect, Jackson's embrace of hip-hop rhythms and New Jack Swing were designed to give Jackson a new younger urban audience. In other recordings, with Bottle, Jackson's sounds were more diverse as it had been in other albums with Black or White recorded under the pop rock genre, while the featured Give In To Me was recorded as a hard rock ballad. The ballads, Keep the Faith, composed by Jackson and his Man in the Mirror collaborators Cedar Garrett and Glenn Ballard, and the self-composed Will You Be There, both featured strong elements of gospel music, while the other ballads Heal the World and Gone Too Soon were softer pop ballads. The smooth R&B number, Remember the Time, featured elements of not only New Jack Swing but also funk, while Who Is It and Jam had stronger funk elements. Lyrics for the song's subject matter were more varied than in Jackson's previous records. Though he often talked of the subject of racial harmony in some of his songs with his brothers, the Jacksons, Dangerous was the first of these albums in which he talked openly of racism, which was the main topic with the hit song, Black or White. Other social commentary topics that Jackson had never touched as a solo artist, including poverty and inner city life, were discussed in the song, Why You Wanna Trip On Me, in which he compared social ills to his own alleged publicized eccentricities that were covered in the press at the time, asking critics and tabloid media why were they focusing on him when other more social problems were going on. He addressed similar issues in the album's opening track, Jam, which included rapping from Heavy D. In the Closet had originally been set as a duet between Jackson and Madonna, though this recording never happened and focused on two lovers carrying on a discreet affair without being open about the affair. The album also included songs of other personal nature, especially in songs such as She Drives Me Wild, Remember the Time, Can't Let Her Get Away, Who Is It, and Give In To Me. The social commentary Heal the World was in the middle of the number of personal songs. Gone Too Soon, written by Larry Grossman and Booz Cohen, was written and recorded for Ryan White following White's death from AIDS in 1990. The title track's lyrics were compared to that of Dirty Diana, with the song focusing on a seductress. Release: the album was released on November 26, 1991. After its first week of release, it debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, staying there for 4 weeks. Sales of the album were shipped for 7 million under 2 months, making this the fastest-selling album ever for Jackson in the U.S., breaking the sales records he had held for Bad, which had shipped 7 million in 4 months. The album was certified 7 times platinum for sales of 7 million copies alone in the United States, according to the Recording Industry Association of America. Globally, Dangerous dominated worldwide charts, debuting at number 1 in the United Kingdom while also reaching number 1 in 7 other territories including Australia, France, Germany, the Netherlands and Spain. It was also a huge success in Asian countries. Sales of the album eventually reached over 35 million copies worldwide. Marketing: similar to how Jackson's label had approached the Bad album, expectations again were raised high for the Dangerous album. In September 1991, Jackson netted a deal to have his videos air on the Fox TV network alongside regular music video channels, MTV, BET and VH1. The 11-minute black or white video debuted on November 14, 1991 and was seen in 27 countries and reportedly watched by a record 500 million viewers, said to be the most to ever watch a music video. The airing and later controversy of the video helped the sales of Dangerous, as did the broadcasting of two other Jackson videos for Remember the Time, and In the Closet. Jackson's first HBO concert special, Michael Jackson, Live in Bucharest, also helped in the sales of Dangerous after it aired in October 1992, reviving sales of the album. After several weeks of tapering off again, Jackson made personal appearances in early 1993 including the American Music Awards and Grammy Awards, the latter in which he accepted the Grammy Legend Award from his sister Janet, and the much-talked-about interview with Oprah Winfrey, helping to return the album to the top 10. Singles. The album's leading track, Black or White, was an instant #1 hit upon its release that November, debuting at the top of the charts several weeks after it was released, staying there for 7 weeks. It would be his only #1 single from the album on the pop charts. Jackson had 4 top 10 singles in the United States from the album including Remember the Time, which peaked at #3 but reached #1 on the R&B chart, his first R&B #1 since Another Part of Me nearly 4 years earlier. In the Closet, which peaked at #6 on the Hot 100, but also reached #1. The last top 10 single for the album was Will You Be There, which reached #7 and was boosted by an appearance on the Free Willy soundtrack, helping to boost more sales from Dangerous. Who Is It peaked at #14, while Jam and Heal the World were both peak at the top 30 on the Hot 100 respectively, Jackson's lowest pop showings since early 1979. And the overseas-only singles, Give In To Me, and Gone Too Soon with Given To Me reaching the top 5 in the UK, Netherlands, Australia and hitting the top of the charts in New Zealand, while Gone Too Soon was more moderately received, charting within the top 40. The single's success of Dangerous was more successful overseas than in Jackson's native United States. In the UK alone, 7 of the singles from the album all reached a UK top 10, just like Bad achieved by 2009. This was a record for any studio album in the UK until Calvin Harris broke this in 2013. Critical reception. Dangerous was well received by most critics. Robert Christgau gave Dangerous a grade of A, saying it was Jackson's most consistent album since Off the Wall. Alan Light of Rolling Stone described Jackson during the thesis of the album as a man, no longer a man-child, confronting his well-publicized demons and achieving transcendence through performance, and that album rose to the impossible challenge set by Thriller. Stephen Thomas of AllMusic described the album as a much sharper, riskier album than Bad. Dangerous received 4 Grammy nominations including 3 for Jackson including Best Pop Vocal Performance, Best R&B Vocal Performance and Best R&B Song while Teddy Riley and Bruce Sweden won the Grammy for Best Engineered Album, Non-Classical. Accolades, track listing, chart positions, and of decade charts, sales and certifications, see also, Dangerous World Tour, Dangerous The Short Films, List of best-selling albums worldwide, List of best-selling albums in Australia, List of best-selling albums in France, List of best-selling albums in Germany, List of #1 albums of 1991, List of #1 albums of 1992, List of #1 R&B albums of 1992, References